What causes iron deficiency anemia? We're going to look at this question from the standpoint of like what anemia is and what are some of the causes of what triggers this lack of iron in the body. So if this type of information is interesting to you and you'd like to see more videos like this, click on the like button and subscribe to the channel to get more videos like this one. What causes iron deficiency anemia? So let's look at this question. Basically, iron deficiency anemia is caused by a lack of iron in the body. The anemia is a result of a lack of iron sufficient enough to make the hemoglobin and then the red blood cells. And it's also possible for you to be low in iron and not have iron deficiency anemia. So just because you're low in iron doesn't mean you have anemia. The anemia comes from when you have really low iron, your body won't make hemoglobin, and then it can't make red blood cells. Usually anemia occurs after a long-standing iron deficiency. And so all this may be obvious about iron as the cause for iron deficiency anemia, but I wanted to put in some of the pieces about the hemoglobin and the red blood cells. But the main thing maybe you're looking at is, what's driving the iron deficiency to begin with. And there's two main drivers for the iron deficiency. One is loss of iron, and the other is not enough intake. So within each of these, there are a few different causes or problems to consider as well. So let's look at loss of iron first. So anytime you're bleeding, you're losing some of your iron in the form of hemoglobin, which is also in your red blood cells. So when you bleed, you lose red blood cells, and then you lose the hemoglobin that's within those red blood cells. Some common reasons for this in males are like a digestive tract iron or digestive tract bleed, such as an ulcer or some sort of bleeding in the digestive tract. And I've also seen several times where males are donating blood and they come up iron deficient as a result of donating blood too often. And on this, usually when you go donate blood, there's strict cutoffs for when you're eligible to donate blood. So they're not going to have you donate blood if you're already anemic. You won't be eligible to donate blood. But it's more common, what happens is after you donate blood, then you become anemic if you're kind of on the borderline. So you're not low enough to reach the threshold to where you can't donate, but you're kind of on the edge there. You donate, and then if you're not consuming enough iron in your diet, maybe you had a diet change, then maybe it doesn't come up as quickly or just continues to fall. So that's not super common, but that can happen. And for females, of course, their menstrual cycle is commonly the cause for iron deficiency. And sometimes it's iron deficiency without the anemia, and other times it's both. So this is why women are more common to have anemia than men, because they have their menstrual cycle and they're losing blood. Obviously, the heavier the menstrual cycle, the more common that will be. But just because a woman has a heavy menstrual cycle doesn't mean she's necessarily going to have iron deficiency anemia. It really depends on the second factor that we're going to look at, which is lack of intake. So for lack of intake, there's basically two things that come into play: poor absorption and simply, not consuming the foods that have iron in them, iron-rich foods. So when you have poor absorption, it can occur for genetic reasons, like the proteins that are the receptors for bringing iron into your body. There may be like a defect there. And then, of course, if you have some sort of issues related to digestion that are impairing your ability to absorb or produce those receptors that bring the iron into the body. If you pair that up with losing iron on a regular basis and or not consuming enough iron-rich foods, then that may lead to some anemia. The iron-rich foods are foods that are rich in blood, basically. So these are all going to be your animal proteins. The blood in the animals, similar to our own blood, have hemoglobin, and that hemoglobin is rich in iron. It's possible to get some iron from plants. However, these don't contain nearly the same amount of iron that animal protein do. So once you have iron deficiency anemia, it will be pretty hard for you to rebuild your iron without consuming animal proteins or some kind of iron supplement. I'll put a link in the description to an iron supplement that I prefer to use. If you want to check that out, you can. But that's pretty much it. Basically, just wanted to point out, some common causes for iron deficiency anemia and iron deficiency in general. And so there are, of course, other causes for this, but these are the most common that I see. All right, so that's all I had for this video on what causes iron deficiency anemia. If you have a question about iron deficiency and you want to ask it in the comment section, go ahead and do that. If you have other questions that you're interested in hearing more about, health issues, etc., ask those in the comment section as well, and I may do a separate video on that topic. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.